Welcome to Stereo 3D Productions. I'll cut right to the chase. Alice's Lullaby is a really cool little indie horror game coated in vibrant, psychedelic colors, and it's an excellent adventure to experience in a VR headset, something that is easy to do thanks to UEVR Injector and a room scale profile that I created over the course of a playthrough. So right away I'll start by showing you how to get this set up. If we ever have any updates to give you on this setup after posting the video, or if we make an updated version of this video, look out for a pinned comment below. If there's no pinned comment in sight, then keep watching and enjoy, and since this is published in 4K, don't forget to put this on maximum quality. Before you get started, you'll need a copy of UEVR Injector, more specifically UEVR version 1.05 or greater. There's a good chance that future versions won't break this profile, but older versions might, so just make sure to at least use version 1.05. I'll put a link in the description to the UEVR GitHub page, where you can then click the releases link as shown on screen, from where you'll be able to download the latest version. Download the archive and extract it into a folder of its own. Make sure you put this in a location you'll remember, because this is where UEVR Injector will live. This package is not an installer, but rather you just have to extract the files, open the folder, and run uevrinjector.exe to use the application. So the folder you put this in will effectively become the install location. Before we run the app, I recommend enabling administrator mode, which will make the warning about it go away and will avoid potential issues with permissions when injecting into games. Go into the folder of the archive we've extracted and right-click on uevrinjector.exe, then go to Properties. In the Properties window, click the Compatibility tab. Under Compatibility, check the Run this program as an administrator box. Then hit Apply, and then OK. Voila! Now when you run uevrinjector.exe, it'll prompt you for administrator permissions. Once started, the administrator mode warning will be gone. Go ahead and start uevrinjector.exe so we can take care of one more thing. This app can run for either OpenVR or OpenXR. Go ahead and make your selection now. In 99% of the cases, I would recommend OpenXR. Unless you're having some strange issue with OpenXR itself, this option will work for Oculus runtimes, Virtual Desktop, and Steam VR. Yes, OpenVR should work fine with an Index or PSVR 2, but those will also work fine over OpenXR, so I still generally recommend sticking with OpenXR across the board. Now that we have our copy of UEVR Injector, it's time to download the custom profile for this game. You'll find a Google Drive link in the description of this video that will offer up the very latest version of the profile we've created. Download the archive and keep it in a folder you'll remember, but don't need to extract it. Just head on over to the UEVR Injector window after you finish your download. In the UEVR Injector window, on the left, there will be an Import Config button. Click that button, and when the file dialog opens, locate the profile archive we've just downloaded. Select this archive, and there we go. UEVR Injector should open the imported profile folder, which means the process is complete. You can go ahead and close the profile folder window. We're almost ready to play in VR. There's just one more step to go. The last thing we have to do before we play is to delete a conflicting OpenXR plugin in the Alice's Lullaby game files. Yeah, I have no idea why this game comes with a built-in OpenXR plugin. No, it does not have any built-in VR support, and fortunately, we can safely delete this plugin to avoid issues with UEVR Injector, but also without breaking the game in any way. First, open your game's root folder. You can do this by going to Steam, right-clicking on the game and choosing Manage, then Browse Local Files. This will open your game's root folder. From there, navigate to Engine, then to Binaries, and finally to Third Party. In the Third Party folder, just delete the OpenXR folder. Again, this doesn't break the game in any way, since it doesn't use the plugin in the first place. Now, with our UEVR Injector conflict out of the way, it's time to inject into the game and get to playing in VR. Launch Alice's Lullaby normally. We could inject right away at this point, but let's make this easier on ourselves by going through the graphics options right away. Go in Options, then in Graphics. First, set this game to run in windowed mode. This is going to make it a lot easier to access the UEVR Injector window when we tab out later. Note that the resolution option here won't affect the VR simulation at all. When you inject into the game, it will run through the native VR pipeline at your VR runtime's set resolution. So depending on what you're using, Quest Link, SteamVR, Virtual Desktop, make sure to have picked a resolution you're good to go with here. The resolution setting here will affect the size of the window on the desktop though, so if you want a smaller window, you can mess with resolution to achieve that. While anti-aliasing is really not much of a performance hit, depending on how far you can push the resolution, in most cases no anti-aliasing is necessary at all. If anything, it makes the image look blurry and lower resolution than it actually is. Set anti-aliasing to low, which effectively disables it. This game is one of the most forgiving UEVR Injector titles in terms of performance. Your target frame rate can be maintained by balancing just two settings: shadows and effects. On an RTX 4080, lowering both of these to medium while running at 2368 by 2576 per eye, or 4736 by 2576 in total, had the game running without ever dropping a single frame. On previous gen headsets, it's very likely an RTX 2080 can pull off decent results with this game, provided you tweak these two settings along with your runtime's resolution. That's it for the graphics settings. Textures can stay as high as they can go because today's video cards, even older ones, have plenty of memory to run this game. Now it's time to get ready to hop into VR. Finally, for real this time. Start up your VR runtimes, whether it be Oculus, Virtual Desktop, or SteamVR, and have Alice's Lullaby open and ready to go. Then switch to the UEVR Injector window and open the Processes drop-down box. Find the process named Albino Lullaby EP2 Win64 Shipping and select it. Once the game has finished playing its intro clips and has loaded the title screen, go ahead and press the Inject button in UEVR Injector. There you go. Now the game will show up in your headset and you're ready to play Alice's Lullaby in perfect room-scale virtual reality. Side note, you can press left trigger and right stick up at any point in time to reset standing origin and recenter your view. You should probably do it once before you start a game. This is one of two bindings you'll need during your playthrough, so next it'll be time to go over the controls, but for now you can navigate the menu using your left stick and the right A button, so hop into a new game to get started. The controls for this game are as standard as VR goes, but first I want to highlight two special bindings. If at any point during the gameplay you need to reset standing origin and/or recenter your view, press left trigger and right stick up. There's also a safe mode binding that will come in handy once during the whole game. If you long press your left trigger, this will temporarily disable room scale VR mode and switch you to seated mode. Originally, this toggle was put in place just in case we reached a point in the game where the profile would be causing an issue. Allowing us to revert to seated VR mode can easily, temporarily address those issues. Fortunately, there's only one of these left in the entire game. To return to room scale mode, just long press your left trigger again. Now that we got the two special bindings out of the way, let's go over the controls. It's left stick to move, right stick to rotate, right trigger to fire a clicker, right B to interact, right A to jump, left Y on quest or left B on index to open the game objectives, left X on Oculus or left A on index to crouch, hold right grip to sprint, and finally to open the game menu, use the left system button. If you're using an interface that causes conflicts with the system button, like Virtual Desktop or SteamVR, just press X and Y at the same time, or left A and B on index, which should also open the game menu. Side note, if at any point you want to open the UEVR Injector menu to tinker around with the profile, just press both your thumbsticks. Press them again to dismiss the UEVR Injector menu. By the way, if you want to know more about the UEVR Injector bindings, I'll link you to the UEVR controls instructions in the description of this video. While this adaptation is 95% the way to perfection, there's a couple of rough edges left that were a bit difficult to iron out. First off, this game will have you change characters. When you play as Alice, since she doesn't have any items in her hands, you won't have a visual reference to see where your right controller is, while the profile itself does use right controller aim for interactions. While this is a bit weird, disembodied right hand of God, this didn't actually prove to be a major problem. Interacting with doors, drawers, notes, and items was still very carefree, just like any normal VR game would have it. Second, when you play as the fish, you'll notice a height offset between the nose of the fish and the position of your head. This is only because the profile is set to have you at standing height, while the fish is meant to be practically at ground level. This really doesn't affect the gameplay. There's a brief sequence where the fish will swim through tight areas, and I didn't even experience any clipping through ceilings, so this just looks a bit weird, but it's absolutely harmless. Next, and this one is just annoying, when you close out of the game, you'll get an Unreal crash dialogue. Again, this is harmless and just a minor annoyance that I wasn't sure how to go about fixing. Finally, and this is the most important issue, this is something that happens late in game, so I have to show you how to deal with it without spoiling the end scenes. You'll end up in a town with hundreds of worm creatures all going to one place. When you reach this place, the game will suddenly teleport you back to the place you entered this area from. This will be the moment to long press your left trigger. There's a cutscene that happens, and it's the only one in the game that my profile doesn't handle correctly. I left out both the moment you get teleported and the cutscene itself to avoid spoilers, but I did show you where it happens and where you get teleported back to so you can recognize it. Make sure to react quickly when that happens, long press left trigger as soon as you got teleported, and you'll see the scene correctly. That's it for the known issues. The last one annoys me a lot because I otherwise have every single other cutscene taken care of in one form or another. It just so happens that this one scene doesn't cooperate the same way as the others. If I fix this later, I'll let you know in a pinned comment. Either way, none of these issues are major, and the game is an absolute treat to experience in VR. This is the first time that I create my own UEVR Injector profile and release it to the public, notably on the Flat2VR Discord. I have to say it was quite a fun adventure, and I have to thank a couple of modders in the Flat2VR Discord that came to help me out while I was improving the profile. I want to thank CJ117 for offering up a script that I could load into my profile to resolve an issue where the UEVR Injector hooks would result in the title screen being all white and nearly impossible to use. Not only did I incorporate this script into my profile, but this led me to start working on that script myself, adding the ability to detect when the game is playing a cutscene so that I could programmatically toggle certain UEVR Injector settings to make said cutscenes work correctly. Without CJ117's script, I would not have gotten this far into profile creation. I also want to thank a user by the name of DJ. DJ helped while I was stuck trying to make the script detect that a cutscene is playing and gave me useful leads that eventually landed me the correct info. Thanks DJ and CJ, without your help this profile would not be anywhere near this good. If you're still watching this and not already on your way to playing Alice's Lullaby in VR, I cannot stress enough how much you should be doing so right now. Don't worry, I won't be sad if you miss out on the last few seconds of this video. I'll actually be much happier to know that you left in order to jump into this game and experience it for yourselves. This game not only has this insanely vibrant color palette, but that's a cover. Under this cover is a very twisted plot with a lot of dark, grim concepts. It looks a lot more disturbing once you get past the thick coat of candy. During the chase sections and the cat and mouse segment in the big house, I genuinely experienced a good degree of fear. When the game shows its true colors through its bright, eclectic cover, it really gets you rattling inside. Wrapping yourself in this environment with a VR headset, just like most good horror games, augments the frights by a factor of 10, something that will drive Alice's Lullaby to often take you by surprise. This video was a very long time coming. I was a big fan of the original game Albino Lullaby in 2016. Back then, the developers had included experimental seated VR support, something that was very common in late 2015 and early 2016, and so that's how I finished the entire game, using mouse and keyboard and going through 3 different headsets, the Oculus Rift DK2, the Oculus Rift CV1, and the HTC Vive. By 2017, I reached the game's end, and knowing this would be an episodic release, I waited for episode 2. And I waited. And I waited. And I waited, and eventually I just forgot. Yeah, the wait went on so long that the release of Alice's Lullaby took me completely by surprise. Look, no hard feelings, I didn't have any expectations from the get-go, and I'm just happy we finally got the game even though it's been a whole 8 years. While the devs didn't go down the VR route this time around, fortunately we have UEVR Injector, and even more fortunately we were able to build up a really good room scale profile for Alice's Lullaby. I started off playing this game at the end of last year using a bare-bones seated VR setup with no custom profile, but when I came back to the game in March I began work on a full room scale VR profile. Fast forward to today and this setup now feels like a seamless continuation of the original seated VR, but with the added perk of room scale and motion controls. I wouldn't have continued this saga if I had to do it on the desktop. It started in VR and needed to continue that way, and we could not have had it any better than this. Speaking of the first game, Albino Lullaby, I started replaying that on the sister channel very recently, and that should be a series I keep going on the side so we can relive the first installment through modern displays and optics. It doesn't respond to UEVR Injector, but it still does have its original seated VR support. That's all I got for you tonight, everyone. That wraps up this UEVR Injector guide for Alice's Lullaby. This guide wasn't entirely expected, but after the profile development reached such a high standard, I had no choice but to get the word out over on the big channel. This is a must-play and really showcases UEVR Injector and Alice's Lullaby at their best. I'll see you soon on here, and until then, come hang on the sister channel. There's a lot going on there. Thanks for watching all the way through. I really appreciate it.